Welcome to Turn Extension, a supplemental podcast for the Advanced Maneuvers YouTube channel.
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Turn Extension. My name is Tony, or Polar Bear Cub on the forums.
Hey, it's Kevin.
Hey, this is Gaston.
Alright guys, so for today we are down Devin. He might be joining us later on, but until that point, one thing we kind of want to talk about today was kind of dealing with one of the meta boogeymans, which is the 9 Slayer spam from Crix. So it seems like everything is Dark Industries right now, because you have Gatsby 3 with 9 Slayers, or you can have Denny 2 with Incorporeal Slayers, but at the end of the day it's a lot of Slayers. So we thought it would be interesting kind of talk about each of our factions on what we think would be a good drop into it. What do you guys think about that?
Just a quick correction before the internet completely blows you up. It's Black Industries, not Dark Industries.
Damn it, I'm sorry, Black Industries.
I'm just
in your defense, Dark Industries is a thing too.
It is. I want to make sure that the internet doesn't completely troll the crap out of you.
There's too many fucking industries.
What about like navy blue industries?
Or like lightly pale industries.
Yeah. Mauve Industries.
Yep. Quav Macaw. Alright, so yeah, so Slayer spam, it's a thing.
Well, the thing with Black Industries is it goes past just Slayer spam. So real quick, if you've never encountered the joy that is Black Industries, it's pretty much any Crix Warcaster, non-Warcaster, or non-character Warjacks, Deathjack, Malice. So Deathjack automatically kind of puts some people on tilt. Iron Lich model and units, War Witch models and units, Black Ogren Ironmonger units, which those you'll see in the 9 Slayer list. Cephalix units, which most of the time I'll see like the Overlords because they provide stealth sprays. So you've got Machine Wraiths for scenario contesting, Necrotechs if you want to fix all those jacks, Scrap Thralls solos if you just want to have some, solos for feats or just scrapjack thralls in general. Soul Trappers, I've seen Soul Trappers as flag sitters, and then solos with the battle group control special rules. So currently right now that is Iacos and soon to be Denny or Denny 0. You get the 1 Merc solo and unit as one of your benefits for every 30 points of Warjacks that you spend on the list. You basically can have, you can add 1 Crix Warjack with a costing value of 7, so that's going to put out stuff like Stalkers, which are too expensive, and there's another one that's too, I think it's Helldiver maybe, that nobody ever sees.
So
but a lot of times, it's free arc notes.
Yeah, you can do a Shriek, Scavenger, Ripjaw, Night Wrench, Helldiver, Defiler, or Death Ripper, or Cankerworm. No, sorry, not Cankerworm. My bad.
Yeah, I think Cankerworm's the one that I was thinking of. The big thing, and I think this is the thing that kind of puts a little bit on tilt, is that every heavy in the army gets a +4 armor for basically gets Carapace, which is +4 armor to free strikes and range attacks. And then if Crix wasn't fast enough already, a 2-inch forward on their deployment.
That's a lot.
It is, and it's so the one that a lot of people immediately hear about is the Asphyxious 3 version of Black Industries, and this is the one that some of the, I guess, synergies that you get out of it is the fact that you're getting super dirt cheap Slayers, seeing as they're only like 10 points. So you'll tend to see like 9 of them in there. Mm-hmm. But the big thing that Asphyxious brings, or that kind of wombo combos into this, is you get Carapace to range and free strikes. And a lot of people are like, okay, cool, I'll just engage you and then I'll beat you up in melee. But then Asphyxious 3's Field Marshal is unyielding. And with the changes to unyielding now, that as long as you're engaged, you're getting the bonus, they're basically getting +2 armor even in the melee phase as well.
So they go up to an armor 19, effectively.
Yep.
Anytime. So
Only against melee attacks.
Yeah, I
Right,
was gonna say,
so it's
even
sorry.
higher with Carapace, and even higher because you get to add both of those together for free strikes.
Yeah, so either you're an armor 21 against range, armor 19 against melee, or you're an armor 23 against free strikes.
That was so hilarious when that guy realized that.
Yeah, it's like, I gotta take a free stack. I might as well have parry, because screw it.
It's so delicious. Because then, like, even on top of that, you just add in all of the caster buffs. So you have, Gatsby's got mobility, so they all go up to, what, speed 8? So, a +2 deployment zone, you're running 16 inches, 18 inches up the board.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty reasonable.
Yep, you can remove
Then-
Hex Blast. You can give at least one of them Ashen Veil if you really want to.
And then the other thing that I think that's kind of unique to Gatsby is with his feet, he can actually run them all. Because his feet gives him extra focus to use.
That is
So
true.
the more you fight against him, kind of the more he powers up.
That's pretty good.
But
Actually,
the good news is
that
the
feat is
Slayers are also, Mat 7.
It's pretty good. So, that's where Locke's feat is based a lot of it looks like.
Yeah, and you would think that, like as Gaston said, you're like, okay, well, they're Mat 7, so a lot of times that may be boosting. Now, arguably, they get the power up, so they could boost and then just do combo strikes or something like that. However, a lot of people are throwing in the Black Ogre and Ironmongers because they come with the beautiful ability of Curse Faction Warjack, and they can basically curse targets to give Faction Warjacks +2 attack against the market that they curse. So that kind of fixes, the Mat thing.
To a degree, yeah. Absolutely.
And then, if that isn't enough, he's got Calamity on his card, so he can increase it by another -2 defense and -2 to the armor, so they can hit more accurately and powerful. And if you got some sort of debuff or armor debuff, he could Hex Blast it off. And he's got a lot of toolkits available to him, and I can definitely see why there's a lot of synergy to the list. I think it's the tilt of what the hell do you do when you put your faction down and you're like, cool, you got a all battle group list, so I'm going to be dealing with 4 or 5, maybe 6 if you're feeling really saucy heavies. Nope, I brought 9. Shit.
You think people will be used to this at this point after Karchev?
Yeah, you think they would with the Mad Dog spam?
Well, and that's so that brings up an interesting, does the Mad Dog solution that were the things that people were using for Mad Dogs work for Slayers? And I feel like due to the Carapace and the Unyielding and the fact that they're a higher defense, the answer is no. And their defense
I feel that
13.
you're a crazy person.
Okay, explain.
So there are a couple things that differentiate this in the negative way from the Mad Dog spam. First and foremost is that Slayers are only POW 16. And it's not like Karchev where he had the feat that was, they're doing extra dice of damage or something like that. I'm sure I'll get lit up for not remembering his feat. But there's not, the way that the damage buffs work in Crix is they're picking on a target and then they all go in and kill that target. You have Parasite, you got Crippling Grasp. In the case of Gatsby, you have Calamity, things of that nature. So Crix is very good at picking on a single target and then you obliterate it. But when you have multiple heavies that you're going out after all their stuff, they start having to spread all those damage buffs around. The Slayers don't do as well. 16 is just not a very efficient power on a heavy Warjack, even when it's only 10 points. The other thing is that, one, if you're playing a list into Khador Jack spam, you're not going to shoot them anyway. They're frickin' armor 20 base. Some of them are even higher. So it's not like you were expecting to bring a gun line that's going to be effective. You're looking to do the melee, and you're looking to crack the damage that way. The other thing is that even with the Unyielding, they're still only armor 19. They're not armor 20. And they have significantly less boxes than the Khador Heavy. So anything that you're using against Khador Jack spam is already going to be good into the Slayer spam because they're just statistically worse.
I think so. I think the drawback's going to be is that if Gatsby's going to be popping his feet turn, because the turn he engages, right, he's going to pop his feet. So you have to make sure during that time that you're doing effectively enough damage to all of those models, because you're going to want to pop your own feet. You're going to want to do whatever you can to try to hit back on him. you have to destroy enough models where he cannot recover effectively. So like for me, like my instant thought is I'm going to bring Lucant and some inverters because they're going to be hardy enough where they're not going to get damaged. Lucant can pop his own feat to give +4 armor, and I can heal myself up if I need to. And then I can put out stuff to increase my own damage. And then with conversions, I can just shuffle around focus relatively easily.
I guess the only problem that I have with that comparison, though, is like when you compare the Slayer boxes to the Mad Dog boxes, the Slayers are only down 3 boxes from the Mad Dogs.
Well, remember they removed boxes from the Mad Dogs from when Karchev was a thing. That's one of the CID changes.
They removed or they added?
They removed boxes from a couple Kador Jacks.
I don't think the Mad Dog was affected by that.
So the Mad Dog is also he's armor 18. He has a weird setup for his.
He's missing 5 of the total boxes.
Oh yeah, they didn't remove.
Whereas the Slayer is only missing 8 of the total boxes. So he's missing the Slayer's missing 3 damage boxes from the Mad Dog.
With one more armor point than the Mad Dog.
With one more armor point in the Mad Dog, and the Mad Dogs were only at POW 14s. With 2 attacks, whereas the Slayers are POW 16s with 3 attacks.
How dare you use math to like completely destroy my argument?
And even if the 16 to 14 wasn't enough of a ratio, the Slayers also have combo strikes, so they can bounce up to what, at 22?
I hate you.
Wow.
Yeah, I think I've pretty much just got served. So, well, I guess the good news is I can take the cast off, and Kevin's got this.
It's one of those things where I was looking at the Slayer list, and I was like, I see a lot of the similarities, and that's why I was kind of asking the question: is the things that we were using to counter Mad Dogs, will that counter Slayers? And I feel like the answer is no, because the Slayers feel like a better Mad Dog.
I still feel like the answer is yes.
I feel like the answer is yes as well. Because they have 1 more point of armor, 3 less boxes. Their defense is 13, but that's not absolutely amazing for a heavy. If you combo strike, that's only 1 hit that's power 21, and then you go back to power 16.
I'd also like to say, let me just say, hey Ron.
Wow. What is Ron going to do?
Hey Ron?
Hey Ron. Come on. Where's the Menos John love?
That's true.
Because, yeah, what do you mean what is Ron going to do? He's going to be like a little to the left, a little to the right, and Gatsby come on through.
Yeah, but
you think Gatsby's anywhere near the line for these things?
All right, then, they can't charge the Colossal you're going to take, so you guys go a little bit back, you guys come a little bit front, we'll take care of you, and then you guys come in again, we'll take care of you again, and so on and so forth.
I mean, they can't charge a Colossal, cool, but, I mean, at the speed of 6, your defense is negligible with Curse because you're giving them a single target, they curse. So now they're striking at Mat 19s. Your defense is negligible. And they're with the lower defense, it makes them allowed to do more repetition of hits. And then with Calamity, they're now at base 18s. Like, you throw
but
2
remember,
or 3...
Calamity is a single target.
Yeah.
And it's a spell that has counterplay.
What's the counterplay?
But if you're playing...
Midwinter?
Yeah, or you get anything, Eilish, Orin, something that's going to turn it off. But if you stick Calamity, it takes 3 Slayers to kill.
Okay, and that's where it becomes a positioning game. You have to understand what your opponent's threat ranges are, what they can do, what they cannot do, what the threat range on the Ogrins are, which is 13 inches. You have the ability. They're not the hardiest Ogrins in the world.
No, they die.
So you have the ability to scalpel them out in order to improve your odds. Like if I were to drop, say, something like Rask into this, you've got the Swamp Horrors who can roll on up. They got the 4-inch reach. They nom nom nom. They back up an inch, and so now they're 5 inches away from whatever was behind that initial target. And if you're able to position it so that way you are 9 inches away. So if you have you're 5 inches away from the initial target. You've got the base size, which is about 2 inches. So you start doing those positioning games, then, they're not going to be able to walk up to you. You can feet, and you can be nice and safe. You can drop clouds. You can be nice and safe.
Do you think
any sort of control effects?
Do you think this is a list that maybe you advance up to get, maybe top of 2, bottom of 2 damage on the Slayers, and then willingly back up out of the zones to, you'll concede 1 or 2 points to the Crix player, but maybe giving you some more range so that you could potentially get another, I don't want to call it an alpha, but get some more damage in before you just get stuck into it.
Yeah, I'd absolutely play smart.
Because it's not a situation where these Slayers are going to block you out of a zone. Maybe they'll be able to block you out of 2 zones, but not all of the zones.
Yeah, and I mean, the other thing is, like, that's why I was talking last week about Gareth. He's got control against Jax. You need to have, some sort of control in the back of your belt. You need to have the ability to sandpaper and the ability to attrition. So, and the other thing is that Crix heavies are easy to cripple. And once they start getting crippled, they aren't doing so good.
Yeah, I guess they're easy to cripple, but the theme and the unyielding makes it not as easy, I guess.
I mean, it makes it harder, but it can also make your attacks back more effective into them.
I agree. I guess it's just one of the situations where I'm looking at, like, is there any, besides Weapon Master, Weapon Master spam, is there any level of quality infantry that are going to be able to address this? Or are you really looking for heavy-on-heavy trade here?
No, because, I mean, if you start poking around, what are they called, Ghost Snipers in Ret, Eris, they can do the auto 3 points of damage. Signar has those that can do the auto 3 points of damage.
Yeah, the snipers.
Right, so it takes 7 damage in order to cripple an arm on a Slayer. Like, that's all you gotta do. 7 damage, arm's gone. That's not a huge lift, I don't think. And I'm not saying that the list is something that people should approve of. I think it's something we should whine at PP until they nerf it into the ground, just like all my other opponents. Look, if I'm not playing it, then it's overpowered.
Yeah, I think it's just one of those situations where, because, like, I know Snarky's been playing it a lot at the shop, and I've been thinking, like, with Khador, if you run the Widowmaker package with the Widowmaker solo and Kel Balok, you can religiously apply 10 points of damage that you get to place on specific columns, but you get, 1, maybe 2 turns of that, so you're crippling off 2 of the Slayer's arms. The other 7 are just going to have a fucking field day with you.
Well, hopefully you're using the rest of the army to deal with that.
Truth.
I mean, you're taking on the Slayers holistically with your holistic army. So you're crippling 2. You're going to have, 2 turns of shooting from the Widowmakers and Kel and all them. And so you're reducing him, you're sandpapering down. And then, but you still have the rest of your army to deal with the other... Yeah, it actually is 9. To deal with the other 7. Sorry, I was counting.
No, it's okay.
It's just... I hear what you're saying, and I completely agree. It's not a situation where all 7 are going to get through, but I think there is enough. And I almost feel like this isn't necessarily this doesn't feel like an armor skew, even though we're talking about the concepts of unyielding and carapace and, I mean, we're not even getting into the whole fact of you literally cannot tie these down unless you wrap completely around them, just because they'll walk away from you and not care.
Carver can do it.
I think it's a question of boxes. Like, I legitimately think it's a question of boxes. Can you deal with this many boxes? It's like the Malok. Can you deal with all of Malok's boxes, or can you deal with Madrak and all the troll boxes or anything like that? It's not a question of can you deal with arm 20 or 21, because most people do have answers for that. It's can you deal with this armor value and a butt ton of boxes?
Yes. So, like, let's take Protector to Mena. You drop Durst into this. Because not only do you have the ability to kind of play around and get some alpha strikes, if they're taking the Denny version, then you're going to be able to have a Sanctifier to cancel out the incorporeal feat. And the Denny version runs a lot fewer jacks. But also you have your feat to counter. The ARM 16 or the POW 16s are going to, scratch up your, +4? So... armor 23, or is it +3 or +4? Can't remember. It was +3. So armor 22 Reckoners or armor 24 Templars, it's gonna tickle them. And you're gonna have your mechanics. You're gonna have them base to base. They can't kill the mechanics because you just pass it off to the Jack anyway. So you're gonna repair on up, and you're gonna keep on steamrolling. He's got to play your game too. You don't just play his game. And positioning is a huge part of it.
Well, they said any army in any game anywhere I played within Warmachine and Hordes.
No, actually, a lot of people don't, and it makes me sad. Positioning is the game. The game is positioning. There is nothing more important than that.
Explains why I'm so bad at it.
They're just bad at knowing what 6 inches looks like.
Fact. But I mean, what about army? Like, Tony, when you're thinking about like Signar and COC, is this a Siege 1-drop? Like, are you looking to potentially half that armor and just get solid shots out of it every turn? I mean, the Carapace is after the halving, though, isn't it?
Correct. Yeah.
But without Kane Zero having snipe, Siege sucks.
Hey! Fire for Effect.
Let's not go down that salt mine, please.
Fire for Effect actually might be really good with Siege 1 on his a ground pounder, because that affects the entire ground pounder. So it could be decent because it's power 14, right? So let's see. So what, their normal armor 17. What's half of 17? 18 is what? That's 9. So they're a 9 plus 4. So their armor 13. So if it was like Siege hitting it and he was able to get 2 of them, he's dice plus 1. But it's only dice plus 1 on 1 hit, and then afterwards they go back up to an armor 21. So you're gonna have to try to get something in melee to try to really do some damage. But still, it's only half of a 1 attack. I mean, don't.
You say dice plus 1, and it's not a lot. But remember, we were just saying that once you land a hit on them, they get crippled real fast.
Yeah, honestly, my thought would be is maybe something more along the lines of a Siege 2 in Storm Division, and you bring either the Storm Blades, which I really like. You bring Storm Blades, and then you give them Fury on them, so they get up to, I think, a power 19 on a charge, and then they charge in, do a crap ton of damage, because with Siege's feet, you can give them additional 3 inches of movement, so you actually have the ability to potentially give them the alpha charge on that. And the good thing is, because of that, it's not going to affect Gatsby's feet, because they're not spending any focus, and they can charge in. They're doing straight dice of damage, 3 dice of damage each of them. They could potentially remove a ton of jacks, and if you're doing it properly, if you put it up the turn beforehand, well, then you can waterfall that effect between 2 different units of storm blades.
So you mentioned Siege 2 and Storm Division, but couldn't you get more mileage out of Siege 2 and Gravediggers? I
think my issue always with Siege 2 and Gravediggers is I think you run the risk of not being able to put as much damage out as you can with the Storm Division. Now, that being said, I have not played Signar for a very long time now, and I know Gravediggers is a really exciting list to play. But what I see from Gravediggers, and I could be wrong, and please let me know if I'm wrong, is I don't think they have the potential to crack that much armor that quickly, because you've got if you have trenchers, right? Your trenchers are going to run in. I believe they're. Let me pull up their stats, because I can't remember what the trenchers are at right now. This is really great podcasting, by the way.
Yeah, I guess it's one of those things I was thinking about, because if they're delivering their damage from melee, and you've got Ragman in the list, and then Lady Iana and Master Holt.
So
the Ragman would give you more benefit, because Ragman basically nullifies unyielding.
Right. So let's say you get your trenchers that go from power plus strength 9, they go up to an 11 when they charge. Then they'll go to a 14 with Fury. Then they'd go to a 16 with Ragman and an 18 with Iana and Holt. So
yeah, the only problem you're running with Iana and Holt is Iana and Holt's one target.
Exactly, yeah. Are they target? I thought they were target / unit.
Well, you're kissing a jack. You're not kissing the unit.
Ah, you're right. I'm sorry. I was thinking of the magic attack. Yeah, so...
Dirty Iana.
Yeah, but yeah. So and then yeah, hey, great, you killed one thing. You're not killing. Now you're not killing multiple. But you're only killing one warjack. You still have 8 more to
Well,
deal with. And
hang on.
that's
How does Nemo 3 just not straight up destroy this?
so the issue with Nemo 3 is going to be is whenever the new rule goes into effect with his ability to not be able to, he has to get them within his control range.
Oh my gosh,
Which is-
16 inches, and they only threat not 16 inches.
I was going to say he just needs to go big, go home, and position himself so that he doesn't die in the process.
Right. So, because he'd have to bring, so with him being a Warcaster unit now, he could bring a Squire. So he'd go up to 16 inch. I was trying to see if he still had his number 1 ability. I think in Mark II he had the ability to extend his control range. He doesn't have that.
I don't think he has that anymore.
Nah, he doesn't have it anymore. Yeah, so that's going to do a lot better, where that honestly probably will do a shit ton of damage.
Because, I mean, you're going to be you're going to be shooting them now that you can't E-leap off your own guys. Mm-hmm. But all those E-leaps are, what, POW 12 within a Firefly range, so dice off 5 now?
Dice off 5,
and
dice
boosted.
Damage. Yep.
And, I mean, that's 5 damage per E-leap, and you're going to crumble a lot of cricks really quickly.
And honestly, Nemo 3 is still a very valid choice. It's usually, from what I've been seeing, a lot of people are bringing Nemo 3 and a lot of people are bringing Haley 3. So I don't think Haley 3 is necessarily the right choice for the Slayers. Haley 3 is going to be really good where they're not going to be able to charge in because they're never going to be able to see your stuff. So that's really exciting. But you're also not going to be able to wither away a lot of them because even with your Trencher Express team, it's just not going to do enough damage.
I think you'd actually be surprised.
You mentioned Haley 3, but what about Haley 2? I know she hasn't gotten a lot of live lately, but that feat would potentially be able to lock down, was it like D3 plus something or other?
So Shut your whore mouth.
You could lock down, a half of his battle group, deal with the other half, and then deal with the half you froze up last year.
It's D3.
We do not talk
D3
about
plus
she
5.
who shall not be named ever.
Yeah. So it's D3 plus 5, which you could potentially affect 8 out of the 9 if you roll really well. So you're only really allowing 1 to get to you. And then,
well, the other thing that makes that more appealing to me also is that it plays into Denegra.
Yes.
Is now the incorporeal jacks.
Yep, and that's true.
Not to mention, doesn't Haley have, was it Dominate for Warjacks?
Yeah, so Haley has Dominate. Whoa, that's weird. Okay, sorry. Yeah, so Haley has Dominate. She has the Force Field ability, so she has Telekinesis, Temporal Acceleration. I think it would also be really exciting. And then she could potentially Time Bomb a model to give a -2 speed and defense to start really hurting them.
Oh, that's an AoE. Couldn't you clip a couple in the process?
Only model directly hit by Time Bomb.
Okay.
It was one of her many much-needed nerfs.
Yeah, which I feel like that makes that spell too expensive, personally. Just saying.
Tell us how you truly feel.
That's
I just, as soon as you mentioned Haley 3, I was like, oh, wait a minute. Haley 2 can, lock up the battle group because it's not 30 or 40 dudes on the table. It's 9 jacks, so she could potentially lock up part of that battle group, and then you can piecemeal his army.
Right, and I think for Signar, it's not as big of a concern, which I feel like that's the general thing with Signar, is Signar is generally not afraid of a lot of the things that Crix does. Crix is more concerned with what Signar can do. This list, it does a lot to combat some of Signar's traditional shooting, which I think it does a lot to combat Crucible Guard shooting, because Crucible Guard is a very big shooting faction. But for Signar, I think Signar still has a wide enough ability to be able to play into it relatively well. Where we just mentioned 4 casters. Siege 2 is becoming more popular. Nemo 3 is still really popular right now. We'll see what happens after the lock and load change. Which that change, I assume it's going to happen immediately after lock and load. Just listening to what they were saying, that's kind of what it felt like that change will potentially happen. But they also said they're going to try to turn it out in 6 weeks. So actually, yeah, that would be after lock and load, I would think, because lock and load's in June this year.
You know, it'd be amazing if that included a nerf to Hellmouths.
Doubt it. Doubtful. They already put in their Hellmouth nerf.
I don't think that's happening.
What? I mean, the Nemo one just kind of came out of randomness.
It did.
Eh?
It did.
Yeah.
And the
But we
only
heard-
thing that I learned in the Legion CID is that we all hate Hellmouths.
Oh, everyone hates Hell. What I think is interesting is they said this Nemo nerf was going to happen because of the interaction of Snipe with Kane Zero. Now that Kane Zero is not getting sniped, will they still do that nerf to Nemo?
Please do.
I think they do, merely from the perspective of PP loves to like drill on something when they're like when the community's like, PP, you need to do something about this. They don't hit it once, maybe hit it twice. They grab that bat and just start beating the hell out of it like a dead horse until they think it's sufficiently beat down.
Yeah, which I think it brings to a line a lot of the damage, the increased damage feats, because they changed McKay's feat 2 weeks into the Crucible Guard playtesting to reflect more what other people's feat does, which is the enemy model has to be in your control range, not your own models need to be in your control range.
Yeah, I mean, that's an across the board. I was sad to hear that Butcher 1's being affected by that.
Did Butcher 1 get affected by it?
Basically, they basically came out and said anything that does insert amount of dice to your attack, you're now going to have the target in your control area, not just your unit. So like the whole Butcher and a bunch of rockets and stuff like that, you're going to have them a little bit closer up. Not that it's going to turn off Butcher from going, okay, now that we can see the whites of their eye, blow them to hell and back. But yeah, it's it's apparently going to impact everybody who has that add dice to your attack.
Good. Quit playing Kador like a little bitch.
I'll be interested if they actually do that across the board, because that will be pretty impressive. I mean,
Butcher 1 wasn't exactly seeing a crap ton of time, so it's not necessarily going to be shaking up the meta, but it is something that people have to get used to.
That's true, yeah.
So I was also wondering, does the whole Slayer thing get impacted by cloud mechanics like Zerkova 1 or Cole Grima or High Reclaimer, I think, says a cloud wall. Is that enough of a hindrance that's like the Slayers can't charge in?
Well, I think you need to have a way of doing it offensively. So you have to be able to like suck them in and then drop a cloud wall, or be strong enough ranged presence where you can shoot them, ding them up, if not kill them, then cloud wall. I don't think just cloud wall on its own is enough.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. You can't necessarily just cloud wall and go, all right, we're going to sit here for 7 turns. You actually have to do something with it. But
right, like I was using Rask as an example because of his feet.
Okay. Because so anybody who has a cloud wall potentially could do it, but it's not. That's not the solution. That's the stopgap to give you more. It almost like going back to your whole positioning and everything like that. It almost sounds like it's a scenario of you're positioning and you're backing up, or you're cloud walling, or you're doing whatever to give you more time to knock it down to 5 jacks or 4 jacks or something that's a lot more manageable than 9 jacks.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much. I was kind of I was curious if Borka 2 would be better than Kolgrima. I don't remember the differences between them in specific.
He's not going to have the cloud wall. He will have on the feet turn, they'll be able to go in and they'll hit. So they'll probably combo smite because they're only going to get 1 hit before they get frozen. So it's a situation of they're either going to time lock themselves by choice of I'm not going to do an attack because I don't want to freeze myself, or they're going to turn around and hit and freeze, and then his army will have to retaliate in kind. He doesn't have any cloud wall tech, but he does have the battle charge ability, so maybe there's some sort of play in the fact of, hey, you're gonna advance up, and I'm going to be able to have my battle group get in early damage and hopefully cripple that arm so you can't combo smite, or really just cripple, if you knock out a Cortex before you get to spend any focus that you put on it or something like that.
Okay.
The only other thing that I can think of is, you have the stealth thing, so if you have range presence or battle group presence and the Gatsby 2 players may be playing a little too close, you could potentially stealth out the Slayers and just throw bombs or shoot at Gatsby and kill him out. Because in any battle group, the obvious weakness of a battle group heavy list is the caster.
Yeah, but Gatsby's not a weak caster by any
He's not
stretch.
weak, and honestly, it would be foolish of the Crix player to be playing him anywhere close to the front line, or even mid line for that matter.
Yeah, I was just kind of circling through the different ones. I think Boulder 1 is actually really interesting, particularly if you take him in the fuzzy theme.
For what? Because you're not necessarily gumming them up. You're just going for the armor. You're trying to out armor him, or?
Yeah, what's their... No, Boulder 1.
Oh, sorry.
What is their fuzzy theme called?
Call of the Wild.
Call of the Wild, that one. Yeah. Because he has the feat, which controls him a lot because you can't mobility through it.
Because they can't gain Pathfinder. Okay.
Correct.
So again, you're playing for give me more time.
Yep, and then you've got solid ground, so they can't get around. They've got to go through your defense 14 furries. So, I mean, 7 on 14 is not the greatest thing in the world. You can block line of sight with rapid growth, and then you also have access to a lot of sprint.
Uh-huh.
So you can yo-yo your stalkers back and forth, and then you have also access to stone skin, which is another +2 strength on top of the +2 strength. And having played against that setup with Baldur, it is annoying as shit.
So my question is going to be, though, is how often is Baldur played in like a tournament pairing? Is that going to be something that's a consistent tournament pairing? Because we talked about like...
I have no clue.
Okay.
But it is good, and it is annoying as shit.
Yeah, the Baldur one hasn't been seeing a lot of action as of late, but I would assume that if the Slayer thing becomes too much of a dominant presence, it may. Especially once they get the Ravager theme, the Tharn Ravagers, they get some love to them. There may be some presence there as well.
And I almost guarantee you that I'm not picking these casters because they're first alphabetically. Such as Baldur or Borka.
I mean, it basically sounds
Also,
like...
Ron was the first one alphabetically for rats.
Jesus.
So basically, you heard it here, folks. If you ever facing Gaston, all you need to do is read the first 3 caster cards. He's not going to play anybody else.
Most likely.
Turns out Anson Durst is the first one for Protector. So all my solutions have just been alphabetically the first one in the faction.
Just go to your faction and look at the first caster. That's your solution, is what you're saying.
And actually, Nemo 3 was the first as well. So, great job, Gaston. Great job, because you
I've cracked the
suggested
code.
him as well.
The worst. It
see
basically
here.
sounds like what we've come up with so far is that everybody just needs to kind of go into their lists and go, how do I give myself 2 turns of quality work before the Slayer list really gets in my line. But again, it's about that spacing and all that stuff, because you can't even really gum them up with dudes, because either they're just going to trample through them, you can't engage them, so they're going to walk away. They have, with the unyielding and the carapace benefiting to free strikes, they have such a high armor value, they might as well just have parry. At Mac Fixers, it's like this list is a list where you really have to sandpaper it off early.
No, I agree, and I think with the conversation we came up with a lot of good points. I mean, you kind of wrapped it up really nicely there, but I do want to try to see if we can wrap this up. Is there any last thoughts before we close?
I don't think you need to build a list to play into this. I think you need to take the lists that you're already playing and figure out how to play into it.
I would argue some of the lists, like the Cloud Walls and stuff like that, you could build a list for that purpose and then easily apply it to anything else. Like anything that you do for a solution on Crix could easily be morphed into a solution for Ret Dude Spam or Kate or Dude Spam or anything like that. So I don't think I wouldn't go so far as to say don't build a list for it, but if you do build a list with the intent of your local Crix player is just dominating the hell out of you, is build a list, but then go back to the list and go, okay, what tweaks can I do to this list to still answer the Slayer, boogeyman, but pick up all these others that I'm seeing in my meta first. And I cannot stress my meta. Don't be building a list to counter what you saw at Kingdom Con or Las Vegas Open or whatever the case might be if you're not planning on going there. Like, worry about just your meta and the Slayer spam player that's in your meta if you have one.
Very true. All right, guys.
Usually their name is Kevin.
Usually, yeah. Kevin, yeah. You should be playing Slayer spam and then switch to conversions. Anyways.
Too expensive.
So there's a very good chance we will not have an episode out next week. I know myself and I believe Devin are gone. So unless Kevin and Gaston want to put another call together, we will be gone for a week and we'll be starting the week after that. So with that being
I will be doing my best. I will be doing my best all week long to pressure Gaston into a Retribution fluff episode.
Yes, the fluff episode of the Ret.
I know so much about them.
All right, guys. I want to thank everyone for listening to another episode of Turn Extension.